everyone reads comics a little differently, don't they?
I think I do, at least.
I am somebody who enjoys binge watching a lot. Netflix, the show comes out. I don't like to be titillated too much. Just the same with comics.
Just a little bit.
Ryan likes being titillated.
All the time.
You like it when I say that word.
I do.
I can tell your eyes kind of get a little glossy.
My eyes get titillated.
That's right. So something that happens is I like to save my comics till I have a batch to read.
Yes.
And then I read it all at once.
Yes. I'm forgetful. I don't know if that's why you do it. If I read an issue of a comic and I have to wait 4 weeks for the next chapter, I'll forget what happened before. So then I have to read the one I read last time before I read the new one. And then I'm just rereading it. So I just wait. I wait till I have 6, 7, a good run of a story. And then I sit down and I read it. And then I find out, oh, this sucks. I shouldn't have got 6 issues of this comic book. So it's, it's got its ups and downs, but we're both kind of the same. It seems like we binge our comics.
I want to know from the comic fam, how do you read your comics? Are you someone that has to get to their LCS on Wednesday and crack open that next issue because you can't wait? Or are you a batch reader like a lot of us? Comment in the comment section below, let me know, and also hit the subscribe button while you're down there. I'm holding a Mignola Batman figure for a reason, Ryan.
Interesting. I thought you were just fidgeting.
No. Well, I am fidgeting, but this right here, I love Mignola. I love Batman. I sit next to the first Mignola Batman right there, Detective 583. However, we're talking about Batman today. We're talking about comic books that we're reading, ones that we're stoked about.
That's your transition here.
It's going to work. Weekly pulls is what we're calling this. We're talking about comics that we are reading right now that you may or may not be checking out. We're not going to dive too deep into spoiler talk. No, it's going to be more about the run in general.
This is a new show, right? This is a new thing we're going to try, but we've got 3 different runs? Is that the word you want to use?
I'd call them runs.
I guess we can call them runs. We picked 3 different comic series, and we're going to talk about them.
That's right. We got Walking Dead on deck. We got Batman, Tynion to discuss, as well as Far Sector, Super Surprised. So the first thing I want to chat about with you, Ryan, is Negan Lives.
Cool.
Have you read this comic, fam? Let me know in the comment section below.
I have. I read it this morning.
Yeah, but you haven't read a lot of Walking Dead.
I am not a fan of Walking Dead.
You read the first how many issues?
I was into it up until the end of the prison.
Okay.
The conflict with Woodbury and the governor and that whole city he made, and I was on board for all that. And then he assaulted the prison, and it got overrun, and then they had to leave. And then I realized this is just going to be a book of people finding a place, settling down, something going wrong, them having to escape, find a new place, people die, they get new people to join their team, and it just kind of cycles over and over and over, and there's not really going to be an end. And Robert Kirkman went on record several times and saying, I'm just going to keep going until I decide to stop. And that didn't sit with me. I need an ending. Stories need to end.
Well, he ended it at 194.
He did, and now I think
193. Excuse me. He ended at 193.
So I think now that it's officially over, I'm going to go back and actually read the whole thing.
Sure.
Not yet. I'm going to give it some time, but I'll get through it eventually. But so yeah, for me, Negan Lives was I was basically jumping in with cold feet. I gave up on Walking Dead around whenever the prison was.
Okay.
30, 40, 50 issues. I don't remember the number.
Well, what a lot of you may not know, especially you, Ryan, since you didn't even get to this part of it, the Negan run ends, and it's right around 174, 170, right around there. And then we didn't hear about Negan for a long time. I mean, he didn't come back into the story by the end of it. It was kind of alluding that maybe he was dead, but Robert Kirkman made it very clear at the end of 193 that no, hey, just so you know, the world of Walking Dead may be over, maybe finished writing about Carl and Rick, but Negan lives.
And then to just sneak out a nice little one-shot called Negan Lives is extremely, I like the synchronicity there, tying it together.
That's right. So the first thing that I'll chat about as far as Negan goes is this is actually a really good introduction to the character because he really doesn't get his due in the comic run in its entirety. You don't really learn a whole about Negan. He's essentially like the Joker of the Walking Dead world. He's sadistic, he's crazy, he's unpredictable, he's powerful. He's violent.
I read the first issue, 100, where he pops in and smashes Glenn with not with a hammer, with a baseball bat.
Lucille.
And yeah, exactly. And that was the last issue of Walking Dead I read. So this is all new to me, basically. And it was a good intro to the character. I'm not a a person who really cares that much about foul language. I have a very potty mouth myself, but I thought Negan was a little too
You thought it was too much?
loose with the F word.
Oh my gosh.
And I think at a certain point, it just sounds like you're trying to be cool, like Lobo. That's the impression I get with Lobo, like someone who's trying to be cool, so I'm going to throw out some swear words.
I feel like there's a place for the vulgarity because he is so bad. He's
Right.
such a dark character. And this run, this issue, is an introduction that I feel like was missing in the Walking Dead issues. And you find out more about Negan, I feel like, in these pages than really any one single story that I can remember in The Walking Dead. And I found it incredibly fun. This could be a one-shot. It really could. This could just be a fun little thing to consider that, yes, post-Walking Dead, we find out what happened to Negan. He's still got a quest.
I really like the idea of a one-shot popping in and exploring what happens after the end of a series that's over. Like, I think that's a really cool idea for Walking Dead, for Negan specifically, but I think it'd be kind of cool to follow up and see, what some of the other survivors, people who made it out of the end of that storyline, what are they like, X amount of time into the future. I wasn't exactly clear on when this book took place either. I don't know if they clarified that specifically. Was it after the end of the actual main Walking Dead story, or do you think it was like a side thing that was happening alongside them? Were there any
Not that I saw.
Okay.
This could be post his last appearance in the run and Rick could be alive. So
Sure.
let's say that this continues. There could be more story to us to once plot we thought was finished. However, it's not necessary.
No.
The thing I like about this character development of Negan, you really see that for as powerful and as dark as he is, there is an aspect of him that is very weak. He doesn't want to live. He doesn't want to survive. He wants to be killed and can't do it himself. It's like the one area where he almost pities himself about that he just can't end it himself. Someone else needs to do it. That's kind of like the requirement because he is unable to go through with it.
It makes for an interesting and kind of you can't help but kind of root for somebody like that. And in the face of the zombie apocalypse, I know, like, for me, if it happened, I would just walk outside and be like, cool, I'm done. I'm not even gonna try to survive in this world. Like, whatever the opposite I have of Negan, like the just cynical nihilism. Like, screw it, I'm not even gonna try to defend this world. Like,
But Ryan, there's a cure. It looks like there's going to be hope. Nope. It's like the mist.
I'm not gonna. Yeah, exactly. I'm not gonna go through all that mist stuff in the grocery store. Just like, let me walk out with the rope around my stomach, and I'll be fine. But Negan's got a cool survival instinct that I think sets him apart, and it's pretty cool to explore that guy's standalone adventures in this world. And even if there is no Negan Lives Chapter 2, I'm kind of cool with it.
I, at the very least, am grateful that we got one more Negan scene of him just bashing people to death.
Yes.
It is so grotesque. And I'm not going to spoil it because we're not doing that on this show, but this book's worth reading to find out how he takes care of people who attack him.
Even if you're like me and you're not a big Walking Dead person, I think this one gets a pass.
One that gets an absolute pass that I recommend to every single member as someone who is not really a Green Lantern fan until this week, dude. I'm all in, brother.
Far Sector.
Let's chat about Far Sector. Is this the potentially best Green Lantern story to have come out in recent time?
Depends on what you mean by recent, but sure. Yeah.
You have a tattoo of the Green Lantern.
I do.
So please explain, based off of what we've read, your opinions on this run versus just past Green Lantern stories, because this is special.
This is special. Green Lantern, like any superhero comic, is like an ongoing comic book that's had, ebbs and flows over the greater part of the last century. So there's a lot of backstory and continuity to kind of keep straight in your head.
I feel like I'm reading a Legion of Superhero story whenever I crack open a Green Lantern.
Green Lantern in particular is a pretty dense kind of like side mythology that you really have to kind of jump in with both feet or just not at all.
What species are we dealing with? What color lanterns are we dealing with?
Right.
Wait, what are the different powers and why do they act the way they do because of the colors? Where are we? Where are the other heroes? Oh, there are other heroes that are going to be here, and they're all in space flying around. What can I even see? Who is that person? Oh, and they're integral to the story. I get lost.
Right. It's very easy to get overwhelmed.
But this goes in a completely different part of the universe.
So you've got the Green Lantern are basically, they've been referred to as space police before. They kind of have all of the all of the universe, I guess, is divided up into various sectors. Like our police have precincts and districts and stuff. So the universe is divided into 3,600 sectors, and our main character Joe is the Green Lantern of some sector that isn't even part of the 3,600 that we are aware of. She's in
so far away.
Yes.
And that right there opens up the narrative that I think hasn't been told for a Green Lantern.
To this book. The key to this book is setting it somewhere out of bounds, basically. So she's not running into, she's not interacting with Superman or like Batman or somebody in this comic. There's no tie-ins. There's no
Green Lantern Corps.
There's no Green Lanterns of any other kind. She's the only Green Lantern here. It's 12 issues and it's done. So it's a nice little mini series. It's self-contained.
I'm getting a Naomi vibe in this, man.
It helps that it's drawn by the same person.
Oh, what?
Jamal Campbell.
Jamal Campbell, dude, this guy is so sick, man.
Yes. Like, honestly, I heard when the previews came out and there was like, ooh, new Green Lantern comic. I was interested. I saw 12-issue miniseries. I'm like, oh, cool. That sounds interesting. Drawn by Jamal Campbell from Naomi. I'm like,
ordering two.
Subscribe. Yes. Like, I'm
variants.
done.
I want them all.
I didn't have to read what it was about, anything like that. Like, he draws so well. And especially in this comic, compared to other Green Lantern artists, the way he draws the things that they create with their ring.
Did you notice her nails in the Green Lantern power punch that she does?
No.
Like the extended green hand from the ring.
Well, that's like, everyone uses the big fist.
The big fist. But
sure.
Did you notice the nails, the detail that she's got like this manicure in the punch? You can see her nails. Like, oh man, that's like just a really good touch, man. Cause like I'm noticing stuff like that.
Yeah. The whole thing, it does strangely give off a Naomi vibe in more ways than one.
Well, we're chatting about a sci-fi crime story.
It really is. And I said space police before, and they've used Green Lantern. They've called that a space police story before, but mostly it was just it was them flying around fighting other things, and it was way too cosmic, and it felt kind of like Tom was saying, confusing and all over the place. Far Sector is very much a police story. She's investigating a murder that happened in a place that doesn't really have murder or like emotions or crime.
It's spent a long time.
Right.
Over 100 years of no murders in this particular part of the universe. Mm-hmm. And she's investigating the first murder, which coincidentally leads to 2 murders.
It's a whole thing. These things always, in stories, they always escalate and blow up into bigger investigations. And it's her first Green Lantern investigation too. So she's a rookie. And everyone in this world that she's interacting with, none of them really have any exposure to like horrible, violent murders or crimes like this. So it's all overwhelming for everybody, and it makes it interesting to read.
We're chatting about like kind of sci-fi and criminal like fiction here, but there's also I'm kind of getting like a Lone Ranger vibe here. She's like the only person
it's
there.
Like a sheriff in the Wild West.
Did you get that
like
a little
the
bit?
The lone sense of justice in a crazy, unpredictable kind of world.
Dude, N.K. Jemisin.
Yes.
Science fiction author.
You can
coming
tell.
over to comic books, and yes, we need more authors. Sean McGuire, anybody? Ghost Spider? Authors, like Hugo Award-winning authors in the comic game writing, because it translates so well, man. She can hold a narrative, and I'm hooked. And here's the fun thing. She went on record to talk about how she didn't even really know a whole lot about the Green Lantern, like, mythos.
You can also kind of tell. It helps because it's very friendly to new people who
Does
aren't
that
familiar.
ever happen?
Not
Where
that
you
I
like,
know of.
I don't really know what's going on with this whole thing, but I'm going to write about it.
Yeah.
I mean, think of like Bendis and Superman. Like he knows
Sure.
Superman, and people were like, nah, you don't know Superman enough. She went on record, was like, yeah, I like watched the cartoon, But when Gerard Way tells you, hey, I got a good idea, you take that comic book and you make it happen. Young Animals. This is all part of that Gerard Way, brainchild.
He's got an imprint at DC with, I know Doom Patrol is another book out at Young Animal right now. Far Sector, I'm forgetting the other ones.
Well, he kicked it to her, and she took it on.
It also helps because the actual Green Lantern ring that she has is different than the normal Green Lantern ring that all the other Green Lanterns in the universe have. You have to recharge from a battery like a phone. Like you charge it up, and the more you use it, the more your energy drains. And then if you have 0% Green Lantern energy, your rings is useless. It's just a thing.
Go power up. I love that they made this change. I know there's probably a lot of Green Lantern peeps that are kind of like, oh, don't.
That's not how it's supposed to be.
But you know what? She ends up draining her energy, and it slowly builds back. And that type of limitation is something that I need in this character. I I don't care. Oh, low charge?
I'll just charge it up here and everything's good. Like, that's not how it's scarier when it's like she asks her ring, like, how much energy is left? And they're like, you're going to need like 5 days to get back to normal. So, slow down. Or it just adds a different, like, just a little tiny wrinkle to the whole thing that makes it that much more unpredictable and exciting.
She's investigating murders. And I think my favorite part of this run is that aside from all these limitations, because it was purposeful, all these limitations are so we have a different Green Lantern narrative. There's so many species in Green Lantern. And in this run, she is dealing with helping 3 different civilizations of species.
Yes. This planet she's on is one giant city. Like billions of people in this one city. And it's all 3 aliens. So, yes, on the one hand, it is very hard sci-fi. There's a lot of strange out there concepts in this comic and freaky aliens. But on the other hand, there are 3 species of aliens. So you don't have to learn that much. They're really weird though, so you do have to learn something.
One of the aliens has a knack for just like wanting to eat other aliens. They're hungry.
Tree people or something, and they have roots. They put down roots and they like eat people.
Yeah.
That's pretty much what it is. Right?
This is 3 different civilizations that would never really be able to survive because of how much chaos they would ensue on the surrounding populace. However, there is a method in which the societies have banded together.
We haven't even talked about that yet. That's like the whole way that their planet works is they have banded together to kind of just not feel. They don't have emotions.
Yeah, no emotion.
No emotion, no crime.
Yeah, imagine a population, giant population where that's their way of handling things. No emotion, no crime, and for some time.
For hundreds of years. I think she said like 500 years or something.
Like a long time it worked until now. And now she's investigating and realizing that a lot of these members of the community are starting to revert. They're starting
people
to
have some shady allegiances, and there's some kind of backroom dealings going on, and there's this drug that people can take to like feel emotions. So now you're wondering like whether and who's lying to you, and it works on a bunch of different layers, and it's a lot more than just a Green Lantern comic.
Fam. You got to read this. I'm stoked. And aside from the great narrative, fantastic art, the story is oddly perfectly timed.
Sure. Yeah, that I didn't even think about. There's
riots, dude.
There's riots.
Like, when was this written? There's like, she literally shows up and there's so many riots and they're like, yo, you're here. We need your help. And she's like, oh, no, I'm not really here for like something like that. And she's like, yo, it's like a billion people. It's like, there's a lot. This is a problem. Like last time we dealt with riots, we just started killing people. I mean, and it worked.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, geez, I gotta get involved.
There's specific issues in this comic where she has to kind of deal with how the police on this planet that she's in, like how they deal with things. And it's weirdly relevant to kind of have a comic book that's addressing police, overreach, police violence, specifically when it comes to violence against protesters, which is like a just randomly, weirdly, specifically particular thing that's relevant today. So,
and what issue are we on now? This is issue 7.
Issue 7, I think, just dropped. Yeah, so we're over halfway done. This might actually, honestly, be better to wait until it's all collected and read it as a trade. It's going to read really good as a complete 12-issue binge. And even more like Naomi, she had 6, 7 issues, whatever that trade was, and then she migrated over to Action Comics and Young Justice, and now Naomi is like an integrated part of the DC universe. I'm wondering if something similar may not happen to Joe here, and she could maybe at the end of issue 12 she'll like run into one of the Green Lanterns that we do know or something, and somehow get roped into the main series. And I don't know, it'd be cool. I'd like to see something additional happen with her after issue 12 is over.
I'm just curious, as a Green Lantern guy, like when someone says, yo, what do you recommend? Isn't that like a tough thing?
It's tough. I mean, I've gone to Jeff Johns every time someone tells me that. But
even that's a lot, though.
It's a lot to handle. And if it's not, if like weird space opera sci-fi isn't your thing, then it's not your thing. But this is a cop story above all. So it's a little easier to recommend. And the art is so good. The art is so good. I got to just one more time specify how much I love the damn art in this book.
Are you reading Far Sector, Comic Fam? Are you interested in checking out a new Green Lantern title? Let
I
us know.
would kind of actually be interested to know who is reading Far Sector already in the comments. I want to hear somebody be like, "Oh, I love that book," like because I get the impression that not many people are reading it.
They should be, man.
I'm
I
pretty
think
sure
it's
John's
surprising.
Comics with Kids is reading it. I think that much, but other than that, I don't know. I think it's just me. I think it's just me and John.
All right, prove them wrong, Comic Fam. Let me know in the comment section below. And let's chat about Batman, man. I mean, back when
Goodness,
Tom King left the title and James Tynion started writing,
Tynion.
yeah, people started just critiquing to all hell Tom King. And dude, you come over here and you would defend Tom King over and over and over again.
I don't know if I'd go that far.
Dude, you did. Every
wouldn't
time.
go that
Every
far.
single time, dude, we would talk about this. You'd be like, yeah, man, but I really like Tom King's run way better.
The problem, again, we talked about this at the start of this video, is the way that we both read comics. We like to wait a bit, and I'm hearing every single week people complaining about Tom King's taking too slow, or Tom King's doing like 10 issues of a dream sequence or something like that. Like Tom King's doing all these weird, trippy things. And I'm like sitting there just waiting for my issues to pile up, and I know I'm going to eventually go back and read them all. They read a little better if you wait a bit and read them all at once. I can just safely put that out there. But I do think he didn't get enough credit, I guess, for his run. And it's easier to see for me in retrospect when you look backwards.
Well, let's look back a little bit further than
Right.
Tom King, right? Because really, in the last decade, we've had really 3 major Batman writers.
Scott Snyder, Tom King, and now James Tynion.
So when Scott Snyder came on the scene, he's blowing people's minds. You're literally doing this with the comic book. You're flipping it upside down. You don't even know what's going on. You don't even know some of the characters he's introducing. You don't care. It's amazing.
Commissioner Gordon is Batman now, and we're going to spend like a year in a flashback. Like, Scott Snyder did some weird things with Batman. Good and bad. But
Mostly
by the
good.
time exactly, I would agree too. By the time he was done, I feel like maybe that DC was feeling comfortable trying something a little different,
Yeah.
a little new.
And I think that's why we got the Tom King run. So I want to chat about the, kind of like putting up against each other a little bit, but then I want to get into James Tynion's take on The Dark Knight, because I love it, man.
Right.
I love both, but I'm easy to please.
Sure, especially when it comes to Batman.
That's right. So please explain yourself about Tom King, because for me, I enjoyed it. I liked reading about Batman's relationship issues and
Sure.
more stuff about what's kind of under the mask, really.
There were some things that he did well. There were a lot of things that he did not so well. And I think maybe the not so well things got kind of overblown, if you ask me. When you read superhero comics particularly, you have to remember, as I do, that these things are pretty much temporary. That if some writer you love takes over a comic you love, you better enjoy it while it lasts, because eventually that guy's going to move on.
It's a new movie, basically.
Some other writer is going to come on board, and they're going to tell their story,
Mhm.
and then they're going to move on, and it's just a cycle, and it rotates. So if Tom King's stuff wasn't necessarily your cup of tea, then hold on, because someone else is gonna take over. With that in mind, I think it makes it a little easier to kind of tolerate things that may or may not be what you were expecting. And Tom King focused a lot on Batman's internal struggles, I guess you could say, a lot of mental things that he was going through. And that's actually kind of a focus of Tom King as a writer. He wrote Heroes in Crisis, which was a comic that's basically just about post-traumatic stress and mental health issues all around. And I think that's pretty important. That's a big issue. And it's important for art to kind of reflect issues like that.
I see this change that we see between both of these authors is now perfect for comparison now that we are beginning the Joker War.
Sure.
The run of James Tynion, his takeover, the introduction of characters like Punchline, the designer, those comics, I didn't even realize it, but it was really a transition. I feel like
Sure.
it was a transition to gear up for the writing that James wants to write. If anything, he was probably held back a little bit, as a lot of writers are with the past and having to deal with stuff. But it's a completely different run. It's a different take on Batman.
I would argue that James Tynion's run is not different at all. And that's part of the reason.
Oh, you're going back even further, though. I'm talking about Scott and King. You're saying compared to other Batman stories, this is kind of like back to like Batman 101.
This feels to me like classic Batman.
Sure.
Batman versus the Joker. Joker's got a fear toxin bomb that he's gonna blow the city up with, and everyone's gonna fight Batman, and he's got to save the day.
Yep.
Okay.
A little safe, a little too safe for you.
Feels extremely safe. That's the one word that overridingly just describes this whole. What is it? 10 issues that he's done so far.
Yep.
Safe is the word that comes to mind. I can't blame him. I mean, I think Tom King had a 100-issue run planned, and then DC just kind of, I think. The numbers, it's Batman. If your Batman comic isn't performing well, then something's not right. And I don't think Tom King is necessarily for everyone. I liked it because it was different. And it tried new things. And there's a whole issue where he's spent in the back of a butcher shop, like hung up, while a crazy guy in a pig mask is like stabbing him. And he's sitting there thinking about like, how do I escape? And the whole issue is tense and it's scary. And that was a part of the high points of Tom King's run. And there were a lot of really strange, weird low points that you kind of have to take with. It's all part of the mix. There's highs and there's lows. And to me, this is mostly evens.
Okay.
And I would rather have the ride than something this safe.
Well, I felt excited to read this run. I felt intrigued by the narrative that was being set up for us. Mm-hmm. However, I was reading Tom King's run faster at times. A lot more issues. 80 plus issues. But I was like those issues you're describing, I got through those quick, man.
Oh, yeah.
And I went to the next one and the next one. James Tynion is great. But as you said, it's very basic Batman, kind of going back to his roots a bit. Almost every issue he has a new gadget.
I don't hate everything. I don't like. I gotta.
Oh, we'll get into what you like.
There's a lot in here that I did like. And that is one of them. Like, there's a lot of gadgetry that going on in these 10 issues.
The freaking Shadowcaster.
Sure.
We got to talk about the Shadowcaster right now. Okay,
right
so
now.
James Tynion, it's kind of back to basics now. So I recommend if the Tom King run was too much drama.
How spoilery are we getting? Because there was a certain event that happened near the end of the Tom King
I do
run.
not want to give away. Tom King's fine, but I don't want to give away the reveals of Batman because there are a couple like really cool reveals
in
this
in the Tynion stuff. Can we talk about what happened at the end?
Like
the death of Alfred.
Absolutely.
Okay,
dude, of course.
It's been a while, but that is definitely probably the thing I enjoy the most about this stuff now is seeing the ripple effects of that and how he's starting to like hallucinate Alfred's voice in his earpiece,
man.
And how he's slipped up and he's called Lucius Alfred a few times.
It's pretty
Lucius
cool.
Fox, who is like he's always been like his tech guy.
He's his new Alfred now.
He's now kind of taken over Alfred's job, but he's not as good. He's clearly admitting like I'm not good enough at like balancing all this. And now that Alfred's gone and some other guy is doing it, you're kind of like, oh God, Alfred was cool.
Yeah, Alfred did a lot, man.
Alfred did a lot.
He rooted, dude. But you know what? I like seeing all these gadgets because if you can't be Alfred, you can go the other direction and just
work
equip
with what
him.
you're good at. Yeah.
So, dude, Shadowcasters, this is brilliant. I know you're just like, yeah, it's no big deal.
But I love how excited you are about a Shadowcaster.
Dude, I really like it. Okay, so this is like little marbles, right? Like the Batman, like the shadow of the bat.
Right.
That's a thing, dude. Everyone's seen the shadow on the wall, and the villains, when they see it, they're like, oh, shoot, something's bad, something's lurking over there.
Drop the money and just go.
Well, this isn't just Batman trying to scare people, This isn't just like, yeah, I'm here. I'm trying to give you something, a little foreshadowing of like, you're about to get your ass kicked.
Shadowing?
No, it's a little bit more than that because it's all part of his offensive attack. These little marbles are like a projector. So all of these different bat silhouettes that you see on the wall in the comics, at least in this James Tynion run, and from here on out, hopefully they keep reusing this stuff, that's all mechanics. He's purposely casting a shadow on the wall so he can distract his enemies.
That's cool.
He's just going in there and dropping Marvel kind of stuff.
I didn't think about that, but that would upset me if we see all these gadgets kind of introduced and not really followed through with, because there's a lot like that one between that one and the gadget he gets that he can put on the hood of any car and it just transforms into like a Batmobile.
Transforms, dude.
I don't know how, but it's cool.
See, you don't know how, but it's cool. That's how I feel about this. Every time I read the book, I'm like, oh, that's cool.
It's exciting. It's
that's
different.
exciting.
Yeah.
I'm pumped for this, dude.
It's felt like a while. I haven't read a lot of Batman, but it's felt like a while since he's had just fun with like gadgets. That's a thing about Batman that you don't really get a lot of lately, it feels like. So it's cool to see that be the focus. And I really like what they're doing with Lucius. There are some things that I think are done pretty damn cool.
Character designs, man. Character designs are brilliant in this run. You got Punchline being introduced, kind of a new version of Harley Quinn who's a little bit more sadistic, doesn't have as much lightheartedness to her.
Yeah, Punchline's kind of freaky. I was worried when I got up to the Punchline stuff that I would just be too cynical and I wouldn't like her.
Like you want to be
I'm actually kind of on board.
Are you really?
I'm not obsessed with Punchline.
I was not expecting that from you.
But there were moments where I'm like, okay, she's kind of freaky. She's a little scary.
Comic fan, what do you think about Punchline? I want to know in the comment section below. And did you read this run?
I read a couple more issues than you did too.
I stopped right before Joker War because I wanted to finish it. I wanted to just have the transitional phase to the start of the Joker War, because this little section is kind of like an open shut part of Batman's life that now starts what is going to be a very difficult situation where his family's in danger, he has no money, and there's a lot of problems. You thought he was dealing with proposal issues, you ain't seen nothing yet.
Didn't even talk about that. The whole financial situation that Bruce Wayne is now in is probably, it finishes out my top 3 things that I love most about this current run. The story is him losing all of his money. Bruce Wayne gets all of his money stolen by the Joker, which I think is genius. And now Bruce Wayne has to just adapt and be a broke Batman, which is like, that's his superpower. He's rich.
And now we have a billionaire Joker.
That's also just equally terrifying in a different way.
I mean,
so it's cool. I gotta say, if you take over Batman and not the first thing you do, but you wait a few issues and then the first thing you do is a Joker story.
See, I feel like when you were flipping that comic book upside down during Snyder's run, you were just like crapping your pants. What do you want? You want an origami out of the comic book?
Or do you want a Joker story? I love the Joker, I'm glad that there's all this Joker content to choose from. I'm really excited for 3 Jokers coming out, I think next week or something. But give me a Two-Face story. Give me the Court of Owls. Like, introduce something brand new and like freak me out in a whole different way.
It was lacking a little bit.
Give me some Victor Zsasz, like the freaky like puppet guy. Like, there's a whole bunch of Batman stuff that I don't know, and to just lead off with the Joker right away is an interesting choice, I will say.
I love how empowered these characters are. I love the narrative of the designer. You're finding out flashbacks.
The clown kid, the clown hunter kid. You haven't met him yet? Okay, so I'm glad to see that kid. I like his design. I'm excited to see where that goes. I do like the new characters that are introduced. It's starting to feel like there's maybe a little too many too quick, but with the designer I really liked, and we're getting Punchline, and you got Clown Hunter. So we'll see how it all pans out. But it's growing on me.
You know what's not growing on me, and I hate to say it, but Matina's covers on this run.
Yeah,
I am slowly just not becoming a fan as he does more and more.
I'm a variant person, and I am very much ready for Matina to get off.
I'm looking at all these covers that we have here. Clearly, one of them's an art journal cover because there's more than 5 colors included in the art. But the rest of them look the same, dude.
They're very samey, and if you take any one of them and look at it, it's cool.
Yeah, it's a cool book.
But when you get a line of them all one by one, and you realize
I want to see more variety, man.
Yeah.
It's just, this is such a big run. And
it's Batman, dude. Let's get some different artists on here. Any other artist. Like, I'm okay with Matina. There's a little bit of controversy there. But, I mean, I do like this cover. The one with the Joker and the fire.
The Joker one's dope, dude, man. 95.
This white one with Catwoman on it, I really like. There's some good ones in here, but I think, honestly, if it didn't have the numbers on top, it would be very difficult to tell which comic was which.
The twist at the end in this run about a particular character, I'm not going to give it away, made it for me. And I know you disagreed.
I think I know what you're talking about.
You do.
Okay. It's about, no.
Yeah, don't tell them. Comic fam, we want you to read it. I think it's worth you reading because it's such a short run. And if you're looking to get on board, start a Batman run fresh, this is a great place to start.
The best place to start is when a new writer takes over, because that's about as close to a starting point as you can ever get with a comic like Batman, unfortunately.
I want to know from the comic fam, what do you think about this Batman run? I want to know what you thought about Deathstroke. I got mad respect for the dude after reading this short 10 issues.
Yeah, I liked how he was included in here. It was a little subtle. It was good.
Oh, it was really good. Comic fam, we're going to come back to this table to chat more about comics. So hit the subscribe button. You don't want to miss out. And slap that like button too.
Every week, right? We're doing a weekly pull show. Every week is the plan.
Well, comics come out every Wednesday, Ryan.
There's a lot of comics that come out every week. And, we keep sitting on them and letting them build up like this. So we got to...
We're going to have to change how we read comics, I think.
I think if we keep this kind of format, like one story that a lot of people are already reading and that we should talk about to participate, got to participate in the discussion. But I think we should also be talking about books that maybe not enough people are reading or talking about, like Far Sector. So I think maybe if we can get some recommendations in the comments, that might be a good idea.
That's a good idea, Ryan. Hit the like button while you're down there. Comment down below if you want to see us cover some random comics, man. You know, I think that's pretty cool. We can hear about what the community's reading, and it may influence what we read.
I'm excited.
Let us know, comic fam. Want to hear from you.
Don't forget to geek responsibly.